Hey everybody, it's Romania Black. We are on episode 6 of My Hero Academia, Foresight. So we've got our old Momo versus Kendo here, and I'm pretty excited for how this fight is going to turn out because it's kind of an unusual fight. Like, we don't have any of our main guys. We don't have Deku, we don't have Bakugo, we don't have Shoto, we don't have Ida, we don't have any of the regulars. We don't have Ochako, any of the regular characters. Like, we just had the battle with Shinso and Tsuyu and Kaminari and Kirishima. So this group is one we've not really seen play in action with each other a lot, so I'm curious about that. And of Class 1B, we really only know Kendo, and now we know Kuroiro's ability. So I do know from the manga a little bit about our Mushroom Girl, but I won't spoil anything. I just know a little bit about her powers. That's pretty much it. But aside from that, we really don't know a lot about these characters. So I'm curious to see how that team dynamic will go. I've read the manga before, but like I said in the last reaction, I've not gone back and reread this part of the manga in a long time. So I purposefully didn't go back and reread it because I wanted to watch this reaction and watch this episode with as little remembrance as possible. And then once it's over, I'll go back and reread the chapters it's based off of and then come back and we'll do the non-spoiler and spoiler discussion. But I'm pretty excited to see how this is going to go down. I'm real curious. So I can't remember honestly which group wins. So I do know from this whole battle thing that you can't just say that Class 1A is going to win every fight. I do know that. And that's not really a spoiler. I say you just can't assume, correct? I mean, Class 1A did win this last round, but as far as how the rest of them go, I don't know. So it'll be fun to see how it shakes out. But in any case, we are going to start episode 6 of season 5 of My Hero Academia here in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and let's go. All right, so that episode, there's a lot of recap in it, and I've seen some comments on Crunchyroll about there being a lot of recap this episode, but I did like the content that we would get. I forget about Komori. Komori the Mushroom Girl, not only could I cosplay as her, but I do love that she's so unapologetically just like, nope, gonna do it. This is how we win. Like, putting fungi in someone's throat that chokes them is kind of extreme and kind of terrifying. And I like that Kuroiro was like, so you did that to win? And Kendo was like, you gave Tokoyami these mushrooms in his throat? And she's like, that's what we had to do. I like that about Komori's character, that she's so cutesy, but then she's like, no, I'm willing to choke a guy to get our team to win. And I was like, okay, cool. So I like that. I like that Kuroiro has a crush on her. That's such a cute thing, that the mushroom and the guy in the dark they have a crush on each other. That's fun. Even though it seems more like on his end than it is her. She's like, oh, we're teammates. And he's like, and I like that we had the two leading ladies with Tetsu and Shoto kind of cheering them on from the sidelines. But Momo, bless her heart, Momo has such a good quirk, and she's such a good leader and a good strategist, but I think that she just wears herself out and just doesn't have the self-confidence and stamina to really commit like she should have in this. And Kendo's just freaking strong. So the fact that she could like haul around Momo in a cannon is impressive. But it does give me hope that Momo will grow to be a better, hero later on. And Kendo is very much recognizing that. She's like, yeah, this was tough. I think, honestly, in the end, Team 1B had the better team unity. Kind of like what we saw with Tsuyu's group back in the first battle, where Tsuyu, Kaminari, Kirishima, even with Shinso, who was new, and, Koda, even with Shinso being kind of the wild card factor there, I think that team Class 1A's group in Battle 1 had enough camaraderie and had enough teamwork that they meshed really well and were able to kind of pull it off. And they weren't quite as gung-ho and like running straight into combat like Class 1B's group was. But in this battle, Class 1B was definitely more in sync, and their powers kind of worked together a little bit better in conjunction. Because like Kendo and Comic, their powers are very in-your-face, aggressive, straightforward abilities, whereas Komori and Kuroiro's abilities are kind of more stealthy and manipulative. So it was a good combo, and I think Class 1A just kind of fell short of it. But I do like that we get to see how much Class 1A has improved. Like I said in the commentary, I feel like Invisible Girl and Comic, both people on Class 1A and Class 1B, they're kind of just the gimmick characters. The Horikoshi's like, yeah, she can be invisible, and he's a manga panel. Isn't that funny? But I don't feel like their characters have a lot of development yet. And I hope, especially for Invisible Girl, because I think with Class 1A, her and like Shindo are kind of the more underdeveloped characters, and like Koda, like they need more development, and so maybe Horikoshi will give that to us later on, or they could just end up being like the stock filler class characters. I don't know. I like Invisible Girl because of her personality, like she's so bubbly, but she's like beating the snot out of Comic in this. She's just like, stop it! like just beating the tar out of him, even though she's like this bubblegum, like really girly character. That's really funny to me. So I'd like to see more character development with her, but I am glad that we did get, you know, Kendo and Momo focus, and then Tokoyami and the Shroom Girl, Komori. We got focus with them too this episode. That was pretty cool. And that leads us to the next group, which is going to be Shoto's group with Ida and Sero and Shoji in there too. So that's going to be an interesting dynamic, because that group, I mean, Ida's ability is pretty good. His quirk is really good. And Sero's quirk is very adaptable. Like, it's a very utility quirk. And then Shoto's just, you know, OP with fire and ice. And then Shoji's kind of like your hand-to-hand combat guy. So that's going to be interesting to see them fight against Class 1B. And I didn't get to see which group for Class 1B was fighting them. It's not Monoma, because they're going to be against Deku's group. But it's going to be really curious to see. I feel like we started out with, you know, we're getting closer to our last three groups are our three big three. So Shoto, Bakugo, and Deku are to see how they kind of work together. And Shoto and Ida have history of working together when they faced Stain back in season 2. So I'm sure that that's going to come into play. But it's going to be interesting seeing Shoto fight with a group of classmates that he's not used to. Like, Shoto is used to fighting with Momo. He's used to fighting with Ida and Bakugo and Deku, but not so much Sero and Shoji. So that's going to be interesting to see how they work together in this. And then seeing what Class 1B does in response. Because I think the welding guy is in the group that fights them. And the welding guy might be a problematic person for Ida, especially if he's able to weld Ida. Like, if Ida gets stopped and can't move, then that's problematic. Because Ida's quirk is all depending on his mobility. So if he's not able-bodied, then that's going to be a problem. So, interesting. But yeah, there's not a whole lot to comment on the episode itself. I do have some spoilers I want to talk about, but overall, it was a pretty good, well-rounded end to this match. I like that so far it's 1-1. I like that. I could not remember for the life of me, and this is not a spoiler, but I could not remember if Class 1A or Class 1B won this match. I could not remember, because I had to go back and reread the manga after watching this episode. So, I like that it's 1-1. There's only 5 matches, so somebody's going to win. Unless it's a draw. Somebody's going to win this. But I like that right now it's on even footing. So I do appreciate that it's not, you know, oh, well, we know Class 1A is going to win every match. Not so. But yeah, hopefully Tokoyami gets some medicine to get rid of that fungus, because that's gross. But yeah, that was a pretty good episode. I like the Komori and Kuroiro focus particularly. That's... what a cute pairing. So I do have some spoilers to talk about, but in any case, I hope you guys enjoyed the reaction. So far, so good with these little battles, but of course, I mean, let's be honest. We started out with these groups, and I like Class 1A, and I like the Class 1B representatives we've gotten, but y'all, Shoto's battle, Bakugo's battle, and Deku's battle, that's what we've been building towards. So these next episodes are going to be very interesting, to say the least. So, we shall see. But in any case, if you're not sticking around for spoilers, thank you so much for watching. I hope you all have a wonderful week. Stay safe, take care, and I'll talk to you all again soon. For those of you sticking around for spoilers, man, this show is dedicated to the pace. I've said that the last couple episodes, but again, we had chapters 200 and 201. 2 chapters. Again, the last 3... has it been all the episodes? Yeah, every episode this season has been a 2-chapter episode, which is like, I saw the comments in Crunchyroll where people were like, man, this is like One Piece, where they're just going really slow, and I'm like, no, this is kind of like the opposite of One Piece, where it's just the pacing is 2 chapters. It's specifically just Horikoshi's being consistent, and they're really doing this so that I feel that they're being this consistent route because they know that we're going to get towards the Black Whip episodes, and then we're going to get to Shigaraki's backstory, and that's what we're building to. I'm telling y'all, the front half of this season is going to be very like, oh, cool, Class 1A and Class 1B are fighting. What a fun time. And then the latter half of this is going to talk about child abuse and death and a little kid killing his entire family. And it's going to take a whole 180 to Crazy Town. And I'm all here for it. But man, Horikoshi just does not care about the tone shift. He really doesn't, because this whole episode started with and he also doesn't care about, one thing I like about Horikoshi is he doesn't care about conventions in manga, because one thing that is interesting about this episode is that the chapter in the manga this episode starts out at is chapter 200. And you would think for a manga like chapter 100, 200, like those are like milestone chapters, and a lot of mangaka kind of frame their whole story around hitting those milestone chapters. Not Horikoshi. Horikoshi does not care. Like this chapter 200 was about Komori putting shrooms everywhere. Like that was the whole chapter. Like there was a cute cover page and like, oh cute, chapter 200. But story-wise, it didn't impact it. And so that's one thing I like about Horikoshi is that he is like, you know what? I'm going to give you guys these fun battles, and then later on, we're about to delve into some serious shit. So it's like, I'm just waiting for that tone shift and for the anime-only people to be like, remember when Tokoyami was getting covered in mushrooms like 10 episodes back? Can we go back to that? Like, that's what I'm waiting on. Because I like these battles. The one, starting next episode, I think is when we're going to get into the more interesting group battles. So I'm excited for that. Especially Bakugo's battle. Like, I won't give anything away because I know I'm going to talk about it in the next episode. But the Shoto group battle surprised me a lot reading the manga. I do remember that. And then Bakugo's group and Deku's group, like those are going to be the battles that everybody's like, this is what we came to watch. Especially when we get Monoma involved. But yeah, so these last couple episodes have been really cute and fun. And I love Tokoyami, so getting to see focus on him has been great. And I really like Komori a lot. Like Komori and Kuriro, I really like them too. I did want to note a panel here with Comic, with his quirk. And they don't really focus on it too much in the episode, but he's been speaking so much that his quirk, it was starting to like hurt his throat. And I know we have established that the mushrooms didn't affect Class 1B because they had the antifungal spray, but he had been speaking so much it was starting to like get at his throat. And in the reaction, I talked about how Comic's quirk is kind of like Toga's in Jujutsu Kaisen, where his is like the cursed speech, that he can only speak for so long before it affects him, and the same things with Comic. So I thought that was really cool that the manga recognizes this and kind of gives that hint to the audience that there is a limitation to his quirk. It does have a limit. But yeah, it's just these episodes are fun and I really enjoy them, but I'm just waiting. I'm waiting for the next week is going to start like the turning point where I'm like, okay, yep, time to get into action with these group battles. And then once we get to My Villain Academia, oh y'all, I'm going to be pretty excited about all that. So, but yeah, this was a lot of fun. So I didn't have much to comment. It was all pretty much word for word with the manga in terms of spoilers. I do want to note that, again, there is a lot of tie-in later on, like 100 chapters down the road, because Horikoshi likes his setup and then 100 chapter later payoffs. That's what Horikoshi likes. But the setup in this episode at the end there, it wasn't necessarily in the manga, but they threw in Midnight being like, oh, Momo will be a good leader one day. Mm-hmm. Because Momo ends up being in Midnight's group with Midnight's mentor, and Midnight's mentor, I think, ends up dying, and so does Midnight. And so Momo kind of becomes a leader, and when they battle Gigantomachia, chapters and chapters later, it'll be like probably season 8 in this series, but Momo gets to prove herself as a leader, as a strategist, and it pays off that Gigantomachia goes down and they get him because of Momo's strategies. And there's cost, and they lose members and they lose heroes, but Momo gets to kind of win the final. She loses the battle today, but she helps to win the war later on, which is, I think, a cool foreshadowing that Horikoshi does. And I like that it's Midnight that foreshadows it, because Midnight's the one that ends up giving her life to help Momo and them in the end. So that's a pretty cool tie-in. But yeah, guys, overall, fun episode. I enjoyed it. I had to wait till late to watch it. I didn't get to watch it right when it came out. I had to wait until today to see it, but I was happy with it. So I hope y'all were too. I'm curious to know your comments down below. Please tag spoilers, and please let me know what you guys thought. But I hope y'all have a wonderful week. Stay safe, take care, and yeah, I'll be back Saturday with episode 7 of My Hero Academia Season 5. Bye.